Everyone, this is a presentation on functional behavior assessment and functional analysis. To begin, I will give a brief introduction of myself. My name is Meg Blodgett and I live in Philadelphia, PA. This is my last semester at Ball State University and I am pursuing a career as a BCBA. I currently work part-time as an RBT at a clinic in Pennsylvania. For my field experience, I am being supervised by one of my BCBAs that I work with as an RBT. It is a great place to work and I have been gaining experience working with clients in the school and clinic settings. After I graduate with my master's degree in applied behavior analysis, I plan to work in a clinical setting similar to what I've been doing for my field experience. Before I was an RBT and taking graduate level classes in ABA therapy, I was a special education teacher for 4 years in a public elementary school setting. In that time, I helped create at least 10 FBA plans for students that I worked with. I never completed a functional analysis, but completed the interact and descriptive functional assessments with other members of the student's IEP team. Now that you know a little bit about myself and my experience with functional behavior assessments, let's dive into the material. But first, what are problem behaviors? We have to understand what problem behaviors are and the functions of behavior before we begin to discuss FBAs and FAs, or functional analysis. According to Cooper et al. 2019, a problem behavior is any behavior that can be strengthened by either getting something or getting out of something. The Cooper et al. 2019 text also states that an FBA is designed to obtain information about the purposes or functions of a behavior that serves for the person. There are 4 functions of behaviors that we recognize in ABA. They are attention, escape, sensory stimulation, and tangible. For the function of attention, the client desires access to social interaction through the mediation of another person. For the function of escape, the client determines that they are in a displeasing situation and have to leave the situation. For the function of sensory stimulation, the person engages in the activity because their own actions or movements feel good. The last function of behavior is tangible, where the client wants access to a specific item or activity, and this also includes food. The next thing that we will discuss in regards to functional behavior analysis, or FBA for short, is when to conduct an FBA. For most clinics and schools, an FBA is conducted if the person's problem behaviors are directly impacting their life or those around them in a negative way, and or if the problem behavior continues to increase in intensity. According to Butler and Louis Sally, 2007, previous research supports our findings that problem behavior can influence by specific characteristics of instruction. This means that a student or client's problem behaviors can be influenced by those around them or when in a school setting, instruction that is being taught. FBAs are also conducted if new or emerging behaviors have started. We will now begin to discuss the components of an FBA. According to Cooper et al. 2019, an FBA identifies reinforcers currently maintaining problem behaviors, which includes positive or negative social reinforcers by someone interacting with the person, and to identify the reinforcers so that the interventions can be designed to decrease the problem behavior. In a diagram taken from Cooper et al. 2019, it discusses the FBA methods. The pyramid shows that the value of each level increases as the arrows point towards the top of the pyramid. The bottom tier shows indirect functional assessment, second tier descriptive functional assessment, and at the top, functional analysis. With each tier comes more specialized training, time and effort to complete the task, and prediction or control confidence increases. An FBA is part of the functional analysis, and the FBA is the most in-depth part located at the top tier right here. The second tier of the functional assessment includes descriptive assessment, which includes direct observation and ABC data. ABC data is antecedent behavior consequence data and is used to determine a pattern of behavior. The last FBA method includes the indirect assessments, which include interviews, questionnaires, rating scales, and checklists by stakeholders in the client's life. According to Bruin and Lewis 2015, multi-component FBAs are necessary to identify hypotheses about what occasions and maintains problem behavior. The steps to conducting an FBA start with gathering information by using indirect and direct assessments. The next step is to take the information and formulate a hypothesis based on the purpose of the problem behavior. The next step depends on whether the information found in the direct and indirect assessments are inconclusive. If the results are inconclusive for determining the function of the problem behavior, Then the hypothesis is then tested using a functional analysis. The last step is to develop an intervention based on the function of problem behavior. In summation, the FBA process results in the development of an operational definition of the problem behavior, antecedents and consequences of the behavior, and strategies on how to reduce the problem behavior based on evidence-based research. We will now discuss functional analysis, which has been said to be the gold standard out of functional assessments, since it is used to derive a functional relationship between a problem behavior and the consequence. According to Newcomer and Lewis 2004, the value of functional assessment has rested on the assumption that treatment effectiveness increases if the treatment matches the function of the target behavior. Thus, conducting a functional assessment results in the behavior interventions that are effective, individualized, and appropriate. And in a functional analysis or an FA, there are 4 conditions with 3 testing conditions: contingent attention, contingent escape, alone, and then the last one is the controlled condition. According to Cooper et al. 2019, elevated problem behavior and the contingent attention condition suggests that problem behavior is maintained by social positive reinforcement. Elevated problem behavior and the contingent escapes condition suggests that problem behavior is maintained by negative reinforcement. Elevated problem behavior in the alone condition suggests that problem behavior is maintained by automatic reinforcement. Shown on the slide is a diagram of the functional assessment methods. Under functional analysis, the antecedents and consequences are manipulated to understand their effects. There are some similarities and differences between FBAs and FAs. Both assessments are used to determine a client's function of behavior and provide strategies and interventions to decrease the problem behavior. In an FBA, practitioners look at the environment and behavior data for the client and observe how the client interacts in their natural environment. The practitioners or BCBAs review ABC data, complete interview forms for parents, teachers, and other stakeholders, and observe the client in their natural environment. From there, they can use this information gathered to make a hypothesized function of behavior. In an FA, the practitioners change the environment to see the client's behaviors. The practitioners are directly testing the different types of functions of behaviors one at a time and test how certain changes can impact the problem behavior. However, there is a limitation to an FA, and that is that there are only certain professionals who can administer functional analysis, and they must be trained in administering functional analysis. They also must be conducted in a very specific environment. This testing environment looks like a cleared room with only a table and chair in it, with an observation window installed on the outside to observe the client during the control phase of the FA. At Beyond, the place where I'm conducting my field experience, FBAs are used exclusively. According to my BCBA and field experience supervisor, you need a very specific controlled environment to do an FA and someone who is trained in administering those. At our place of work, we also administer the functional assessment screening tool, FAST for short, and motivation assessment scale, MAS, in direct assessments, and send them out to the client's team and parents to fill out. If an FBA is inconclusive and the BCBA needs more testing to figure out the function of the behavior plan, then an FA will be conducted. However, our clinic has never needed to do this because the indirect assessments and ABC data and observations have provided enough information to determine the function of the behavior for our clients. As I mentioned in the previous slide, Beyond exclusively uses FBAs with our clients. To begin, the BCBAs will send out the FAST and MAS or MAS to the client's team and sometimes the parents. With the forms, the BCBA will graph the results into an Excel spreadsheet that will convert into graphs and track the target behaviors. The BCBAs and RBTs will then collect RBT or ABC data for at least a week to cover different times of day, different settings, and different clinicians. This will continue until the BCBA can track a pattern of behavior. With this information, the BCBA is able to create a hypothesized function of behavior and to then make a behavior plan. This process should not take more than a month from beginning to end. In this slide, we will see short videos of the forms that Beyond uses. The first video is of the FAST form, which has yes or no questions for behavior. It's about 3 pages in length. and includes different places like social influences on behavior, social reinforcement, the different ones, the non-social, the automatic reinforcement areas, and then you will score the scoring summary all the way at the end. The next form is of the mass, which includes a rating scale for different behaviors. So pretty much this entire form here is of a rating scales where you're gonna have to rate the behaviors from never to always. At the end, you total the scores and you're able to put them in the 4 functions of behavior to be able to see what is the target behavior doing. So now we've come to the conclusion slide. So moving forward, after learning more about FBAs and functional analysis, I would love to learn more about conducting functional analyses and eventually getting trained in this assessment so I can be more marketable when I become a BCBA. In my experience, I think Ball State has taught us a lot about becoming about being completing FBAs. And in my field experience, since they rely so heavily on FBAs, it was a good experience to be able to learn about that ahead of time. So far, some questions that I have from my fellow classmates after reviewing this video and the discussion board are, what are similarities and differences that you have seen in your field experience compared to mine? What are the benefits of using the FA over FBA? And then what does your field experience use, FBAs or FAs? It's going to be interesting to see how many people, clients or clinics use FBAs compared to FAs, or do you use both? So thank you guys so much for spending some time watching my video and the training about FBAs and FAs. On the next couple of screens, you will see my references that I use. There are 4 references that I use heavily within this training. And then also I have the reference sheet for the visuals that I use that were not ones that I had taken myself. Thank you so much and have a great day.